Mr. Eckenrode, are you ready? Okay. Welcome, everyone. Our treasurer, Mr. Robson, is not here tonight. He's ill. So Mr. Eckenrode will be filling in as our reporter of all things at a meeting tonight. Thank you. We will be having an executive session tonight, and I do not anticipate the board taking any action after executive session. So you don't need to stick around. We're gonna end executive session and then close our meeting. So I will at this time call the board meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. And Mr. Eckenrode, when you're ready, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. Funk? Here. Dr. DeMarco?
Here.
Mrs. Newman?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Gregory here.
Please stand and join us for the pledge of allegiance. Sorry, Jim will just go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're going to kick off our meeting tonight with a presentation from the high school.
I just feel that it should be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'll pass it over to you, Dr. Luke.
Well, I'm going to tell a couple jokes here because things are getting ready for Pam at this particular point in time. So for the school board reports from the buildings, what we're going to do this year is we're going to focus on the implementation of benefits-based accountability. And we had our district leadership team meeting today, so I'm going to talk about some of those things whenever I give my report. But what the high school is going to do, and they volunteered to do this on teacher conference night, is to come in and really just kind of give an overview of what it is that they're doing. So each, as you know, our district leadership team has focused on this for the last 2 years. And each building has a benefits-based accountability team. They call them, sometimes they call them the bad team, sometimes they call them the TAC team, but they're the back team. So Carla is here as well. She just apparated behind me, and Pam is here, and Leo is here. Everybody, though, had kind of a contribution to the presentation that you're going to see. So I'm really excited about this. I think you're going to like what you, I wrote this last time. Let's see what's been. Okay, good. You guys speaking to the mic because people need to hear.
Yeah, so essentially, we are officially now the BAT team, which is benefits-based accountability. As Dr. Lloyd said, as you can see, the members of the team are all listed in front of you. They may be popping in based on their conference schedule this night. So Carla just walked in, Pam Maddock. Carla's a science teacher for us. Pam does our fundamentals. But the cool thing is this is something they choose to be a part of. It's above and beyond really the overall arching scope and sequence of their teaching assignment. And for me, it's a blessing to meet with these guys every Monday, 7:30 in the morning. We choose that to stay regular and relevant in our practices and our approaches. So go ahead.
I lost, by the way. That was way under.
That's not his opening. I thought that
That's
was
not
your
my
time.
opening.
Your time started.
All right, come on.
So, essentially I wrote this fabulous summary of what we were doing. But our main objective is to kind of hopefully give the board an understanding of where we've been, where we currently are, and then where we hope to be going. And so people often look at it from like, oh, it's another initiative. But for us, it's going to be rooted in our culture as we cultivate a true accountability mindset. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's not something you do, it's something that is overarching, embedded in how we approach things and report things out and how we work with our stakeholders. So our action steps are pretty straightforward. We want to support what our main business is, and that is getting kids ready for college and career, post-secondary, military, whatever they so choose to do. And so this system is a way to communicate paid needs, adjustments, making tweaks to what we do from our stakeholders, from our kids, and the voice of our public, and then reporting it out. But all of that doesn't supersede the portrait of the grad, doesn't supersede our Schleppy work, and how we design our engaging lessons. It's really a way to kind of just overarchingly explain how good we are, and also at the same point, things that we need to focus on. And so, if you go ahead and flip. It begins with the needs of the students. I mean, pretty straightforward. And so you're going to see some things that we've done to include student voice, parent voice, stakeholder voice as we move forward. And so these are what we call benefits, and we're going to explain that a little further as we move forward. But it's a flipped model in decision making, I guess is the best way to look at it. You know, in the traditional school system, you know, it's Dr. Lloyd, Board of Education, my apologies, Dr. Lloyd, and then the traditional pyramid of power. But in this system, it kind of flips. You know, we're not saying, hey, what we need to focus on. It's you guys, our public, that is telling us. So our plan was to identify what we need to improve, tell the stakeholders what they will see us doing to improve in those areas of benefits, measure the change our actions have made. That's important. We're doing some baseline data stuff now that we're going to share with you guys, report out our findings, and then revise and repeat. It's very cyclical, and so this process, you know, isn't a one-time and one-and-done type process. Essentially, it's a process that will continually allow us to identify out of this long list of benefits, 32 benefits that are for kids. And because nobody cares, I'm going to reword that, mandates, state tests, single metrics, backwards looking type things. Remember when you did the Which Way exercise a few years ago, this is all forward thinking, and it's going to continue to allow us to devolve in those areas. If we find an area that is a benefit that we need to improve on, and then we make those strides, we keep that in our focuses, but maybe another area is going to come to light. And so this whole process of getting feedback, communicating with our public, connecting with the student voice is going to benefit us as we continue to grow what we do here in Olmsted Falls. Go ahead.
I'm Carla Weibel, and I just wanted to say that we had worked to make sure our stakeholders understood what the benefits are. But then we encountered a challenge. How were we going to get our stakeholders to communicate to us what benefits needed to be improved? So we thought about this for quite some time, and we came up with benefits bracket madness. This is what it is. I realize it might be a little bit difficult to see, but this follows a March Madness type of format. What we did is we placed the benefits into brackets so that each benefit goes head to head. And what we asked our stakeholders to do is pick the benefit that needed improvement and have that benefit advance to the next bracket. We did this with PTA, we did this with faculty, we did this with our students. And from the data that we collected, we identified 4 benefits that needed improvement. Pam, did you want to put them down?
Take it over. Hi, I'm Pam Maddock. So like Carla said, based on the stakeholder feedback from our PTA, we also had like the link in the newsletter. We have some crazy mathematicians that actually we started the bracket on paper and they figured out how to like put it online. So PTA, sorry if you did it on paper, it's way cooler online. And then it compiled all the data for us, which was amazing too. Like Carla had mentioned, we had a couple students some of you met with as the board that came and just talked about a little bit of this. That was like our first trial group almost, like of 5 students to introduce the benefits-based accountability. And we had a lot of great things just from those 5 kids. So we actually had a random sample, each grade level last spring. We had just randomly picked 50 kids from each grade and had them do the benefits bracket with us. So kind of not as much of an introduction there. We gave them just a little bit and said, like, where do you think we need to improve? So we took the student data, the staff input then, they did the bracket as well. And then we presented at like 2 staff meetings and said, you know, what other input do you have? What do we need to know? Where are you seeing we really need to improve? Based on your conversations with students or parents too. And then, like you said, after PTA, we did have a link in Mr. Signal's like high school newsletter too. So the bracket ratings, we compiled all that data, and they're, like Mrs. Weibel said, like 3 really clear-cut winners. So here's our, of course, final 4. They're not actually pitted against each other. Now these are the 4 things we are working on improving based on, what we heard from the public, from our stakeholders.
If I can interject, one of my apprehensions coming in is when you push out brackets, you wonder what clarity it's really going to show. I was pleasantly surprised, really shocked, that all groups, parents, kids, and staff identified 3 of the 4 areas with overarching, like they were all 1, 2, or 3 in how they came out with our sample sizing and our student assemblies, with my SPAC council kids, with PTA, and then parents responding to the link. So that's the power in this system, that multiple different groups of students and parents and staff members all were feeling the same areas that we can get a little better at, or a lot better at, depending. And so that's what I was like, this is really powerful stuff.
So this is kind of now our plan in action. We have to figure out what are we doing, how do we measure it, who is working on this work, and then eventually we identify if we're doing this in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months, like how long do we foresee this taking? And then we look at, every 3 months pretty much, like have we met this result yet? Like how do we think we're doing? So you can tell it here, we have these to what degree questions for every benefit. So for social and emotional health, it was to what degree is the student's whole health picture a part of our mission. So again, like Mrs. Weibel said when we started this, we're like, well, social and emotional health, that's a big topic. Like, what are we trying to identify here? We actually, each one of us that's part of the BAT group here, met with different teachers and had them ask their students, like, what does social emotional health mean to you? So we compiled all this information and we made a survey that's just, can you regulate, do you know like how, like to see or regulate your emotional state? And they quick picked an answer. And then we had all of the information, like what did it mean to them, listed and said like what areas do you think you may need to improve on or may need help with. So we just kind of pushed that survey out this week to students. We didn't give them any introductions or tell them what we're doing really with it yet. Our Dr. Mercer actually is taking the lead with social studies on this to sit with the students and tell them a little bit more about it. But we already had like 173 students in a couple of days like fill it out, and we're getting really good data from that. And again, like you said, it's the recurring themes that you see, and it's freshmen to seniors, kids at Polaris, kids at CCP, AP classes, like they're saying some of the same things. So it's really been kind of fascinating to get this information from our students. And then the team up there, you can see we work with like UBIS, our guidance department, Mr. Spignola's principal advisory committee on these things. So far it's been a pretty cool journey, and we just started. We also show
You can stay here for 1 second, because I'm going to interject too. So think of like each of the benefits that the school has identified. In this particular case, it's the high school. There's a process that all the buildings are going to go through. And first, they're going to identify what, as it relates to the benefit that they're trying to provide more of that's important to the stakeholders. What are the actions that the building are going to take? What measures are they going to use in order to gather evidence to determine whether or not they actually are providing more of that? And then the result is the system of what the system should look like after they're providing more of that particular benefit. And then the people associated with working on providing more of that benefit. So you'll see symmetry across the system of the same kind of organizational process that's going to be used, but there's autonomy in each building based on the collaboration and communication with the stakeholder groups, because high school students, high school parents, and staff may want to focus on different kinds of things and have different strengths and opportunities compared to Falls Lenos, compared to the ECC, and so on. So this is the process that's used for each one of those particular benefits. I'll be quiet.
Our result is very targeted, it's intentional. That is not a canned result, it's not a prescribed result. That is us reflecting on what we are hearing, the data that is coming in, and we're realizing social and emotional health high school kids is really twofold. The social aspect of a high school student, as well as the educational side of the high school students. And that is why we intentionally said we're going to be a system where all students have the opportunity to explore interest and understand options. No, you changed
That's what
it.
you say.
That's
I thought you were just talking overarching again.
But basically, that social and emotional health, we're like, man, it's loud and clear. The kids are telling us from a high school level and their parents, this is twofold. That social acceptance, that social belonging, as well as that educational side of it, both are impacting the whole child. So kind of cool.
So then readiness for the future is the one, we talked a little bit about again with the group and we're like, where do we go? So we thought it was a good idea. One of Mr. Spagnuolo's things he always asks us, what do you want to start doing, stop doing, or continue doing? So like, let's ask the kids that. So we came up with another survey that was just released to them this week together, actually both surveys. And we're getting a lot of good information that's just open-ended, like you tell us, it's like no checklist, nothing, just open-ended information. And again, 162 responses and a lot of the same recurring themes. Obviously, student voice, like we said, is important, but not all of our students are the same. So some of them are saying like, we hate the new late start days, don't make us sit with our class. And some are like, these are awesome, I need more information about college, I need more information about, the topics that we've covered so far this year. So it's, this group kind of meeting and looking through that data and saying, okay, like what overall are we doing and are we giving opportunities for all of our students to be ready for their future. So we've talked to you about, ideas like career days we do, which again, that's going to continue to do the college prep work that we've been successfully doing for all these years, but we're adding in these things, like field trips, work opportunities, building on our Portrait of a Grad skills. So again, a lot of the same people involved, but also we put staff on every slide because we are bringing in different staff members. Mr. Stulik was great in the spring with some of the things we were doing with readiness for the future, or even lifelong learning. So it's more of like a voluntary or not voluntold yet. We behind the scenes, Mrs. Weibel, myself, Dr. Mercer, Mr. Bass will like poll people and say, you would be really good. We need your help, we need more information. So it's really been just a team group effort here so far. Next up is lifelong learning habits.
It's worth noting that the data that we're gathering is qualitative as opposed to quantitative. I mean, many times, things that you can count and enumerate, that's like easier data to gather. But to take the time to sit down and read all these responses and glean the nuances from what you're reading, that it's harder work, but it's totally worth it because you get a deeper understanding of what your stakeholders need from you. And so you'll notice for lifelong learning habits, for our measurement, like how will we know what we're doing is making a difference? We have it labeled as under construction because we're still brainstorming ideas here. Again, since this is qualitative data, some thoughts that we're having are we could tap into the resource of our outstanding alumni association. We can ask them, hey, in your opinion, did your time here at Olmsted Falls City Schools inspire you to continue learning? Do you feel like it gave you the resources you need to go out to explore things that are meaningful in your life and have enriched your life? And could we rely on students who come back like now, more like they went off to college or they went off to a career and they email us and say, you know what, something I learned in your class really helped me. It sparked my curiosity about something and I decided to pursue it. So we're still trying to think of ways that we can measure our progress in this category, and we've got a lot of options for that.
We were hoping Dr. Mercer was able to make it down. He's probably still finalizing with one of his conferences. But essentially, this whole system is going to be rooted on our stakeholders kind of understanding what we are doing. And so, as Dr. Lloyd alluded, like each building is going to be able to identify those focuses because kids' needs change and parents' concerns and needs change over the course of their educational career. But district-wide, since we are hitting the launch button officially, we need to make sure that our public can fully grasp the concepts of why we are doing this. And essentially, that they are a pivotal part of helping guide our decisions, our framework, things that we are focusing on. And so when you kind of look at the four components that we are building with our system, actions really important to us because we're still trying to build this capacity for our public or with our public is to what degree do we develop stakeholders, you guys' understanding of current strengths and opportunities for growth, because that's really the target. We don't want to say, hey, this is what we got to get better at. We want you guys to walk alongside of us and tell us, hey, these are areas of concern that we want to see you continue to grow. And so you're going to see information in my newsletter. We're working on a communication flyer type thing. It's a work in progress. It's going to get better. It's really wordy. If anyone knows me, that's kind of my style. So we're going to probably jazz it up a little bit. We decided also to add a personal connection. We're going to do 30-second highlight videos or talk through videos that we can push out so it's not all in words. I don't want to do the videos. I freeze in front of a camera or a microphone. And then we want to organize a parent night and invite people in to dialogue with us, communicate as we present on this information. As you can see, all of our partnerships kind of moving forward. And then again, for you guys, I mean, this is part of that understanding is that's intentional. We're going to get back to it, but the questions you guys as the board may have for us as stakeholders as well. Go ahead.
I want to just interject real quick. I whine about test scores an awful lot, and the problem with that, and why I do that really, is that it just focuses on such a small thing that's involved with school, and it samples it at just such a really, a really brief kind of sample, and it really doesn't account for how the system's functioning. And I think when you put things or say that you're going to be a system that communicates where you are and affected and not affected, and the changes that are going to need to happen, is really more of an organizational development kind of strategy versus we do really well on the reading and math test, which really doesn't say much on the opportunity that any school, in this particular case, the high school, and the impact that they have. Not only when the kid's there with us for 9 through 12, but really you can see that it's, as Leo said, windshield and kind of like projecting into the future. And that's really, I think, unique about this sort of system.
Yeah, no bureaucracy or red tape with this system. I kind of alluded to this earlier, but the visual, I think, kind of brings it more to life. It's a flip model, which is a very interesting model. It's refreshing to work this way. So instead of the state or the board or Dr. Lloyd telling me as the high school principal, hey, Leo, these are the things I need you to do and focus on to improve your building and your culture and the benefits, those 32 key benefits that the kids can benefit from, we're flipping it. We're saying, hey, students, hey, parents, hey, stakeholders, you work with us. Let us know what you think we can do better at. Let us know how we can make a better impact overall on your child's experience, on the day-to-day experience, all the way through, hopefully by the time they start pre-K and then go to post-secondary or life outside of the high school. And so when you look at something like this and you compare us to schools from Northeast Ohio, and I talk to other principals and I think they all get excited about it, and then they can't see past the lenses of state test scores and how did your kids do on the algebra test, and how did your kids do on the geometry test? I go, I know, but I don't really hang our hat on that, and I could, because we perform well, but this is a better way, in my opinion. Am I allowed to say that? Yeah, this is definitely a better way of doing it. It's refreshing as a building leader with that. It's just an overall refreshing approach, and it allows us to have honest and transparent communication with everyone involved. And things like, and you can go to the next slide if you like. Things like my SPAC council, stop, start, continue. They're like, Mr. Spagnola, that's lame. That's what old guys do. So now we're doing what's up, what's down. And some of that stuff is coming into, what we're doing. And it's just a chance to kind of sit back and listen to them. So the one slide, stakeholders, we kind of put on there by saying, begin to take your questions. Because for us, this is also an opportunity to work with you guys a little bit as a board. But feel free to ask anything with what we shared tonight.
Good job.
difficult to get staff buy-in, or were they fully understanding of what you were doing and fully bought into it? Or did you have to sort of bring them along?
I'll kind of answer it, then I'm gonna turn it over to these guys. Getting staff buy-in is always a challenge. However, when you have teachers leading teachers, and so strategically, the first time we rolled this out, guess who did not present? Mr. Spagnola, right? It was these guys that are trusted adults, trusted teammates that said, hey, this is where we're going, this is why we're part of the team and what we're excited about. And oh, by the way, we're gonna ask you to walk alongside areas that resonate with you versus it's a mandate and thou shalt. And so that's the part that allowed the staff to go, okay, like I can see where we're going with this, and how do you disagree with, the social side of a kid and the educational side, their mental health impact, or how do you disagree when we strategically write those results that say we will be a system that, and so we even get their input in some of those things when, high school people are very cerebral, and so words are very impactful, so we spend times even debating words to go into our statements, right? And so
Did that all day today.
we did, and so, inspiring teachers to inspiring teachers is really how this building has been able to get that first set of dominoes to fall, so.
And I think too, when you, like you said, buy-in, when we're part of it as stakeholders, like even students were like, I didn't know you guys do these kinds of things. Teachers were excited to be able to vote and rank and say, this is really what we need to improve on. And we shared the results every step of the way, like everything's very transparent, so it's not like, oh, well, you said this, but really we're gonna work on this now. Like they have seen all of the data, they've been a part of it. We've, like I said, staff meetings, we present, we show them things. Just saying, they did say it was the best staff meeting ever in January of 2023 when someone wasn't there, I don't know.
I'm not here, I just didn't consent.
No, but it was good because, we had a lot of open and honest conversations and dialogue, in this room and I think, again, we were transparent, so it was easy buy-in. And Dr. Mercer's not here, I have to say it for him. There's a 2020 rule that John Tanner, who does a lot of this work with benefits-based accountability, you can't change the whole system at once, it's going to fail. So you can change 20% of the people, can change 20% at a time. So that's why, we're starting with 4 benefits. So I think that helps people too, saying this is not an initiative, this is not going away, like this is something that is inherently, like you said, part of our culture and our mindset. It's not just, hey, this is what we're doing this week and next month, like we're never gonna talk about this again. So there's been buy-in.
Absolutely, because we care. We care about our students, we care about our stakeholders. Everybody saw the logic to this. This is a better way to address the needs of our students. And right there, that was the selling feature.
And then the last thing I would say with that, when you focus on scores, you define kids by scores, but you also define staff by scores as well. And so this is an opportunity for them.
John Mercer, everyone.
There you go. I just stole your thunder too.
So this is just an opportunity for them to be able to connect and engage on what we deem more important than a competency score on an end of course exam.
John, you've been here for how many years?
35.
Okay, and the question that Mrs. Walker asked was about staff buy-in and really kind of how that's gone. And then Pam talked about the 2020 rule, which I think you have a tattoo of.
We all do.
I know. Of go slow to go fast and don't do complete system upheaval all at one time, the importance of that. And that has helped to kind of leverage, I think, some staff buy-in.
Okay, I'm not going to answer that question until I share with you the conversation I just had walking from my conference down here. I was telling the parents that I'd be coming down here and maybe speaking to you, or maybe the presentation would be done, and they said, "What are you doing?" So I had exactly as much time as it takes to walk down that one hall to explain to them what this process is, and I said, we're working to find a way to communicate to our parents and our community how their children are doing in a way that isn't a number. I said, if you ask a parent what they value and what their goal and dreams are for their children, they never say a 97 on the state exam. They say preparation, happiness, and whatnot. And we're trying to find ways to basically convey those intangibles in a tangible way. And the reaction of the mom and the dad was, what a great idea. And I said, well, you're gonna probably see something in a month or so. And they said, great, well, really, thanks for the heads up on that. So it was such a really uplifting moment for all of that. Now, in terms of the question Jim asked about staff buy-in.
Well, congratulations on nailing the elevator speech.
Yeah,
You're always put on the spot.
it wasn't something I planned. The staff buy-in is, and I'll be really honest, I think it's all over the place. There's some staff that really has bought in because, like you, they've begun to really see what's going on and they understand the power of what's going on here, and they want more. But we as public educators are inundated with mandates. There are so many different mandates and tests and this and that and another thing and another thing and another thing that we have as, when you're peeling the onion, one of the layers that public educators have is this scar tissue of state mandates, and we want to teach kids. We don't necessarily want to just fill in all of the dots and are you just giving me another layer? And the proof is going to be in the pudding as this rolls out, as we do this. And this is why I am the 2020 maven, because I've been here 35 years and I can tell you a lot of these mandates and how amazingly ineffective they were and how much time they wasted, and how when you come and say, oh my gosh, we have found a silver bullet, there's a lot of incredulity, and it's well earned, especially by us gray-haired folk. And so I think we're going to get there. And the 2020 rule has really been a helpful mantra because it's not a mandate, it's something that's going to help us do our jobs better and, more importantly, incorporate our community more fully in what it is that we're doing. Because just as my parents say to me in conferences, what I wish for in my students, what my dreams for my child is happiness and success. If you were to say to me, what is your 35 years, what are your pinnacle moments as a teacher? None of them are, oh, that kid got an A. It's always, oh, that child exceeded. That child came out of their shell. I can tell you some speech and debate moments that if I just think about them, I get a little misty because the child came out of their shell and became more of a young man or a young woman. We share these dreams for our community, and I think this program will help us tangibly share them with our stakeholders. I've talked way too much, I apologize.
And you were saying you were worried about me.
He's right about that, I'm gonna get so much crap later on.
Any other questions for us?
Any other questions from the board? Thank you so much for.
Thanks, that was inspiring.
We're going on to administrative reports now. First up is PTA, Mrs. Flippo.
Just from here,
You can have some if you want, well, then they can hear you, they can see you, and they can, and also she brought a friend. Thank you.
So
So just to give you an update on PTA, right now the entire district, all the units are participating in the PTA Reflections Contest. We always have a great turnout and we usually have some winners that, you know, move on beyond the local and state and actually make it to national. We've had some national winners. And we usually have over 100 students participate, so it's a fun thing to see all their creativity, and they reflect a theme, the same theme across the entire US, which this year is I Am Hopeful Because. So they're all working on artwork in different categories to do that. So that's the first thing. The next thing is we're working on a cookbook. The cookbook is going to become a fundraiser, which will eventually help support scholarships for graduating seniors. And we are looking for recipes from the community, from families. So if you have some, they have to be your recipes. They can't be something that's already been copied, right? So feel free to send them in.
How do we do that?
You can send it to myself or Jen Prugar is in charge of that. So, yep, if you have some great recipes, we'd love to have you in there.
Oh, I thought, this is like my side hustle.
Well, yeah, well, we would
Not
love
yet a
it.
side hustle.
I think that
We were
would be
talking
wonderful if we had some recipes.
Oh, I love
for
that,
like
absolutely.
And the board,
Yeah,
anybody could like to do that, or any families. And we're also looking for student artwork to help decorate the cookbook. So eventually, then we will sell them. So we won't have the price and all that until it gets published. So that's all in the works right now. Membership continues throughout the year. So right now we have 1,310 members in the district. And a special shout out to the middle school for 100% staff membership participation. So they're the first school. We'll see if we get the others on board as well. And just a few notes from the units. The Early Childhood PTA had a recent fundraiser at Razzles. They did a Reflections Art Night and had 50 families participate in a trunk or treat. And they're busy, they have a lot of activities and they're busy just running their activities. Falls Lennox Early Childhood Center PTA raised over $20,000 in their recent Raise Grace fundraiser. It was a fundraiser where the students would say they would promise to do a good deed, and people would give them a donation, for that. So that was very helpful. They ran their Halloween classroom parties. They collected candy for a service project for the Applewood Sitters. They donated 128 books to the PBIS book vending machine, and tonight they are providing dinner to staff at the conferences. OFIS also provided staff dinners during conferences. They did Red Robin this year. I heard that went over really well. They're also busy, they were trying to put together some Thanksgiving meals for families from their school that can't afford to have to put together a Thanksgiving meal. So they did some collections for that. And they're currently running a fundraiser through the Grand Pacific Popcorn Company. The middle school just ran is running a fundraiser through RICO for middle school apparel, and they're going to be working with the athletic boosters during concessions during home basketball games. So they've got a partnership going with that, and they've been collecting items for Rachel's Closet and provided lots of volunteers for the book fair. And tonight I brought Joy, who's going to from the high school. She's the president of the high school PTA, and she's just going to give us an update on the high school.
Hello everybody, I'm Joy Hannafin, high school PTA president. Just wanted to say that our membership is about 255 people, and we have had very good staff participation. Really appreciate Ms. Annette in the back for reaching out and coordinating with your staff members. So that's exciting that they're really involved. We are partnering with Athletic Boosters, which for their sale on December 2nd, we will be gift wrapping, and we'll have a donation jar, but it's just really cool to collaborate with another booster organization or another organization. It's kind of fun, and we have some other projects in the works. So those are our big things. Our next meeting is at the end of this month. So thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions for PTA?
Thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much.
you.
Again, we love PTA. Dr. DeMarco, Claire's update.
I don't think we've had a meeting at Blair's since our last board meeting. But since the last time I think I reported, a couple fun things have happened.
I spent one day out at Polaris doing mock interviews. I spent one day out at Polaris doing mock interviews of some of their students as they were getting ready to go out and look for internships and placements. So that was a lot of fun to get to meet students that were outside of the Olmsted Falls District, and kind of give them some college and career advice and kind of review some feedback and things with them. And then the other thing that was kind of fun was that they actually brought their exercise science crew for the seniors. We did last week, I think they came down to Cleveland State and spent the day with some of my faculty and staff. And got to learn what the next level of exercise science might look like should they pursue a college pathway. So that was fun. And then the big news that Dr. Lloyd tweeted about, I saw, and that Bob from Polaris also tweeted about, was they got a very large grant.
$11 million.
$11 million.
Wow.
I mentioned it months ago in passing that they were gonna put an application in. It is for the addition onto the building, but for the development, or I guess expansion of kind of a trifecta program of robotics, engineering, and automation. So it looks to be pretty modern and high-tech.
It will help provide additional, I hate to use the word spots, but like enrollment placements for students who are part of the Polaris Consortium. So that's good, and obviously it's a big STEM push for, every now and then the governor and others do things that are pretty okay, and so they found some money, $300 million, and made it competitive, and Polaris got some money, so it's gonna benefit our kids. It's awesome.
One of the questions I asked, I was concerned when they put the proposal together, was if there's an engineering pathway over there that it would take students out of our program here, but they assured me that that was not in fact the case, and that these would be students that would be there for an entire project or program, to your program. They did say that in the planning, and I don't know how far along this is, or between when they submitted it and how it will roll out, but it would be an opportunity for our seniors to maybe do an elective credit there in the engineering program. So if they decided they wanted to pursue it from here, they could go out there and there's makerspace, so they can collaborate amongst other, disciplines, so to speak, and then kind of make some different projects and innovative, collaborative programs. So.
Yeah, that'd be great to have the resources to create a full-on makerspace in that environment and have it right down the road. That's a huge opportunity.
So it should be pretty cool going forward. So, any questions?
Thank you very much. Mr. Zeller.
Good evening. Lots of people down in our department. We have started a maintenance program for the weight rooms here at the high school and middle school. So we partnered with Zimmer Fitness. They come in, they're gonna come in twice a year, look at all of our equipment, make sure it's in operating order. We've also developed a program with Larry Hamilton and Evan Norris where in between the visits from Zimmer, we're getting into the weight rooms more, checking on things, making sure that they're fully operational and in good order for the students that we're working out and preparing either for class or for their seasons. I appreciate the efforts of Larry, Evan, Kodiak, Kyle Harris, Rob Kyle. They've all been working really well together to make sure all the equipment is operational and good. We've also we ended up getting rid of some equipment that our program is no longer used. We were able to put that up for auction and those items sold. So that's gone pretty well. We've signed on for a Google Admin Console audit. So essentially, they're tech people who know way more about the Google Console than I do. Go in and make sure that we are optimized and operating efficiently there. Joe Mayberry is working with CDW Amplified to get that taken care of, to make sure again that our systems are in good order. We continue to work with Time Clock Plus. Our goal remains shifting from paper timesheets or Google timesheets to utilizing the electronic tool in Time Clock Plus to do all of our extra hour pay. Again, should help us be a little bit more efficient and more accurate in payroll. I'll just be honest, it's been a heavy lift. when you think you know something, there's a little nuance for one position somewhere in the district that you then have to build a bunch of different codes for. So we keep trying to figure those things out. We were blessed, about a month ago, we were down in Columbus with the user group training. We were able to hook up with Northwest Schools down by Cincinnati. And they've been using Time Clock Plus for 8 years. So we've been able to talk to them. They've shared a bunch of resources with us. It was good to talk to them because they gave us the user side of it as opposed to the company side. So there's some things that, you know, Time Clock told us we couldn't do that we can do, and we've been able to make that. And there's also some things that Time Clock's like, yeah, you can do that, and we're like, yeah, no, they're gonna tell you you can do it, but you cannot. So, and part of that is just because of what we do with some of the things that we can do. It's because of how stretch pay works with some of our classified employees. But we're excited. We're getting a ton of emails from staff members asking, because we have asked all our staff members who are putting in for extra hours to email if there are any issues. So right now, we kind of have both systems going. We have the paper system and Time Clock, and we're trying to marry them and make sure that we're accurate before we go completely into Time Clock. So again, goal for that is the first pay of January. We just finished open enrollment. That's always a challenge, making sure everyone gets in and makes their elections and things like that. But that process went pretty smoothly, other than there was a glitch in Ben Express, which was not our fault. It was a Ben Express issue. We got a hold of our broker. They fixed it that evening. They fixed it within an hour. So that was nice. Really want to kind of mention my appreciation to Kelly Mendelou, Deb Tracy, and Molly McAveen out of my office, who they answered a ton of questions. And they were hounding people. They were helping people. We were able to come over on the PD day and help people who needed help with the open enrollment process. So that was nice. Another thing coming out of our tech department that actually took place this week, and our staff members didn't know it, but it's called Know Before. It's an anti-phishing test. So we send it out to them, and we see if they click the link. So we're able to see who's like hitting things that could potentially expose our networks to some things. So there's some people that we're gonna be touching base with.
Yeah, Joe told me about that today. It was like they were caught in the phishing experiment.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was just
It was, hey, click here to like log into your
Yeah,
Google
so
account,
this is
like
kind of
show
like
me
a-
your soul or something like that.
Is that like, then Joe Mayberry shows up and says,
like, hey, don't click things that you don't know what they are. That's the problem. So.
did you do it, Leo?
So, you know, it's really not it's not
Make sure
to
I didn't click on something I should not.
punish anyone or
I
anything
saw
like
great,
that, but it's,
yeah,
it's just a way to test our systems and make
That's why I'm called lifelong learning.
Well, the other great part that has come out of it though is Joe's like, I've had like 20 phone calls and people calling me and asking me if this is legit. So on the other end, we have a lot of people who are doing the right things. They're either ignoring the phishing or they're reaching out when they're not sure. So, you know, the vast majority is doing the right thing. And for those that are maybe clicking on things that look like they're fun to click on, we'll say don't do that. So, that could have been bad. We've had a lot of staffing changes on the classified side. For whatever reason, lunch recess aides keep turning over, but we've had applicants, we've been able to fill those. We've had some change take place in food service, but again, we've been able to fill those positions. Sam has done a great job building principles for the lunch recess aides. They've been doing a great job with that. Had a lot of flux within our bus drivers. So, you know, it's our monthly plea. If you're interested in driving a bus, give us a call. We'd be happy to talk. But, you know, all in all, staff-wise, we're doing a pretty good job of keeping our buildings staffed. So we are getting hit with a number of leaves. Just, you know, it's the nature of the business we're in. We're whether it's, just personal items that people need to take leave on, so, I know building principals have been working on trying to fill those positions, we've been fairly successful with that, so. With that, if anyone has any questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Cogan?
You'll notice the 2024-2025 calendar is on the agenda for this evening, so you'll be approving that, and we'll get that out. I think it right now is even up on our website as a draft, but once that's approved, then we'll go ahead and put the approved one on the website. Last week? Gosh,
It's all running together, so.
I know, I really don't even remember what day it is. I believe it was last Tuesday, was November 7th, our professional development day. Shannon is not here, but it was an awesome day that she and the PBIS team for the district put together. We are just now receiving the feedback, so we send a feedback survey out to staff. So we'll, take that feedback to kind of just gauge, what were the positives, what were some of the things they would have liked to have seen more of. So already I think we have like 125 responses, and we just sent it out this afternoon. So they did a really awesome job. The speaker was really good in the morning. He had everybody together, and in the afternoon he broke up into the pre-K to 5 and then 6 to 12. Really talked about strategies to use with students when you're talking about creating a positive classroom, restorative practices with students and student discipline. So really good topic and very timely, because now's about when everybody's getting really comfortable with each other and you start to see some of that stuff start to pop up a little bit more. So it was a great day. I had the opportunity to be in Kalahari, my favorite place for the Ohio middle level conference, but our middle school team is Alyssa Coe, Laura Almenstein, Mark Kurz, Mike Sizlowski, Eric Barkowski, Chris Bowden, and Kelly Acosta did a presentation on how they've been using student voice to make changes at the middle school. They did an awesome job, and it was great because at one point Alyssa Coe said, they were talking about their dress code, some of the changes they've made over the past few years, based upon student voice and students saying certain things about the dress code. And Alyssa, who happens to be our math teacher, said, I was at the middle school about 9 years ago, 10 years ago, and I might have been dress coded, and just kind of talking from her perspective, just about how different middle school even looks now than it did when she was there. And that's what you want. I mean, you want school to evolve into, what the students need for their environment at the time. So it was really good. I was really proud of them. They did an awesome presentation.
Any questions? Again, Mr. Robson is not here tonight. The monthly financials are on the agenda for the board to see, and just, I'll highlight a couple things. We are, we have on the agenda to approve a transfer of $500,000 to the athletic fund. And just to remind the board, we do this once or twice a year actually, to fund the athletics, and we keep it separate, so we know how much, we're putting to that. And this has been standard procedure for years now, but just reminding the board of that. And then also, on the agenda, is the 5-year forecast up for submission and approval tonight. And that's for the board to vote on tonight. And there's not a whole lot of difference between the May forecast that we filed with the state in May. We do it twice a year for our audience. We file forecast, 5-year forecast in May and November every year. So every 6 months, and there really was no change on May. All right, Dr. Wood, you're up.
So I have a couple of things that I want to talk to you about, and the first is an update on this whole gross builders thing. Talked to you about that before, and so for those that don't know, there's a rather large 40-acre piece of property between the middle school and the high school. and Ovis Middle School and High School. That piece of property is owned by Gross Builders, and that was in litigation with the township for quite some time. Gross Builders was like, whatever, they won, which means that they can develop that particular piece of property. They then reached out to us. Their vision, which I think is just crazy in my opinion, is to put 202 homes in that area. And we obviously have our own thoughts on that particular piece of property and whether or not 202 townhomes should go in that area and feed out onto Badley Road. And there are also zoning things that are at the county level that would prevent that because there's no two ways to get in and out of there. There's only one way, and if you recall, the last time I gave you an update, they asked really for an egress to be able to get out, and then we said, you know what, that road doesn't benefit us at all, and so we're out with that. So I don't really know how they're gonna get in and out of there or put 2 points of egress in because they don't have the frontage to be able to do that. But nevertheless, they're continuing to kind of communicate with us because they said that, and this is because it's stormwater, and that's a dirty word in Olmsted Township and Olmsted Falls, and one of the reasons why I have concern too, is that they've redesigned their stormwater drainage system for their first 50 homes at Willow Grove is what it's called. And they're proposing to outlet their storm basins into the ditch that starts on their property and continues on school property, which is Minnie Creek. And if you can remember, that was the project, I believe, that the township started in order to help to try to alleviate some of the stormwater problems that were over in the Brentwood, Greenwood, that whole area over there where those residents had. And that, I think, effectively has worked by and large. But once they start to say that, then obviously I have concern. They said in order to do this, they're gonna need to survey the size of the ditch that's on the school's property and so on and so forth. So I don't, we're gonna let them come on our property and do their assessment. But my email to them, which I think I've only kind of kept Holly involved, and quite honestly, I let the township trustees know the communication that's gone back and forth between Brett and IEP and this gentleman named Rick from Gross Builders is, I've worked here for 18 years, and I said, stormwater is a dirty word because there's been so many issues with it. And my questions were, why isn't the county doing the stormwater assessment? Why would you do that? Exactly. And then secondly is the district wants, I said, we want absolutely nothing to do with any project that has the potential to increase stormwater output on our land or the land of those of the residents around it. And simply put, we're gonna get blamed even if it's not our area. And then I kind of talked about the fact that there was that joint project that was done. And I said, yeah, you can have access to the land to come in and do the survey. Please work with Heath on that. But am I very concerned about you mentioning 50 homes and running your stormwater into ours? And I'm like, absolutely, we're very concerned about that. So, the way that it works is they're gonna have to go to the county to get approval for anything anyway. And they are very much like, we really don't wanna do that. And then they are gonna have to go to the trustees to do the same thing. And those two entities don't really like one another. And you will have to weigh in on it, and I know how you will feel about that, which is we're not gonna be part of anything that's gonna push stormwater or increase anything. So, in my opinion, I don't see how they're gonna put 202 homes in there to begin with. I don't even know people who are gonna buy 50 homes in there, but that's not my business to try to develop their land. But when it comes to stormwater, if they're gonna do anything, they're gonna have to jump through. Evel Knievel over Snake River. It's gonna have to be kind of crazy for them to be able to accomplish that. Like that? So, that's Gross Builders. I just wanted to give you an update on that. We are, as it relates to the Board of Education building and the potential of the build lease option, we're continuing to move down that road with the Carnegie Group. Brett and I met with them, it's all running together, sometime last week on the 7th or whatever it was, And we looked at that initial footprint that they came out with, which was about 9,700 square feet. And we kind of gave them our input on what we thought there would be some flipping of kind of what that footprint looked like. I don't have anything to give to you yet, but I will soon, because they will kind of show us, here's what you said. There'll be, as you remember, like a boardroom that will be in there and other things, so we don't have to. I enjoy coming over here because it makes you feel like you're part of like everything, but, and then we'll need to negotiate price and all those other things. So that's kind of that. Do you have any questions about stormwater or that building update? No. Okay.
What happened to the exploring the idea of building here? We're looking, am I jumping here to the list? Sorry.
No, you're not. Anything as it relates to trying to hitching a board office onto a bond issue would be part of that study that would be done. And I think because we have been in that building temporarily for the last 25 years, I don't see anybody being interested in trying and going, yeah, I'm gonna pass millage for a board office. I mean, nobody gets psyched up about that. And so, based on the feedback that I received, if we were to move forward and kind of pursuing the whole build to lease option. That's kind of where we are at this particular point in time. So that's why we're moving forward with that. I think, and the discussion of the master facilities plan is coming. We had our first meeting on that. Who was there? Remind me who was there.
Justin.
You two were there, and I thought that that was a really good meeting as well. Which leads to the next thing, which is that first meeting happened. Kim and I are really trying to work with that group to try to schedule another one before the holiday or before winter break, but we don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to really try to do that. And it may be around like the 18th, 19th, or 20th or something like that, and that will really be, the next piece is the educational visioning we gave people to download on the facilities. Next part is, what does an educational facility look like that's considered 21st century and beyond, and really to provide options and pictures to people that would then parlay into what would be next is site visits to different kinds of things to see what that would look like. The primary project involved in that facilities plan will likely be a primary school building, and so it won't necessarily be visiting intermediate schools and middle schools and high schools because we have the infrastructure that's already there, and it's fit and everything else. It really would be more of a early childhood kind of process, and so there are some of those around that ADG has done that we'll take a look at. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is we had a district leadership team meeting today that kind of led into a lot of the things that the high school said, and I'm really proud of the way in which you kind of presented everything. It was so cool because you didn't have really any script at all, and you're up there preaching about the things that we've worked on for the last 2 years, and you believe in what it is that we're doing, and you'll hear the same kind of sermon. It will be developmentally appropriate for each group that comes in, and they're going to say, this is how we're doing that work. So I was like, you were awesome. I was really proud of you for how you did that. But I wanted to share just really the timeline because as it relates to that benefit of increasing stakeholder understanding, which is a benefit in and of itself. So it's along the lines of lifelong learning and practicing empathy and being safe, respectful, responsible, kind. Well, having an understanding of what it is that your school district or your school is working on, how well they're doing, and what areas of growth is that area of like stakeholder understanding. So what we did is we worked on, and Kim created this graphic, but we've all kind of talked about really where we're going with this. The first thing was to finalize our to what degree questions, and I want to tell you that, like, if you think of, as Leo said, when you ask parents and students, what are your hopes and dreams, they tell you lots of different things. All of those kind of fall into sort of drawers. There are about 7 of those drawers, and the things that are within those are about 30 benefits, right? And as we started to think about, well, how are we going to explain really what those benefits are? There's this idea of creating these to what degree questions, because if I tell you like the benefits within student learning are these things, get the basics, deep content, being strength focused and aligned to need, you may not know exactly what those are. So it's the to what degree questions really kind of define and really create some understanding about what each one of those benefits are. So for the last, well, today this is what we worked on at district leadership team. For each one of the 30 benefits or so that are here, we made sure, and kind of like I drug everybody through this, taking a look at the words that are there to make certain that parents understand this. Because this is not an accountability system that people need to understand necessarily internally. The true test of whether or not it's understood is whether or not parents and our primary stakeholders do. So we went through of each one of these different benefits and wrote to what degree questions, or really fine-tuned each one of these different things. So as it relates to get the basics, I'm just going to give you a quick thing. To what degree do we prepare our students with sufficient academic, life, and social skills to be successful in the future? To deep content, to what degree do we create opportunities for our students to deeply explore and investigate areas of their interest? And to what degree do we support in-depth learning in all areas? Strength focus, to what degree do we nurture and focus on student strengths? Align to need, to what degree do we align, design, and tailor instruction to meet student needs? Now, you're not going to need like a decoder ring like you would for the state's accountability system to really figure out like, what does gap closing mean? You know, what is value added and what that means? Because we are going to build this system with the end user in mind, which is our families and our kids and our community. And the data that we will be gathering, while Carla indicated that it's qualitative, I'm going to say that it's we're gathering evidence, much like an attorney would gather evidence to make an argument or tell a story in order to make a point. And as we're gathering evidence, that evidence will be both qualitative and quantitative in nature. And so there will be quantitative and qualitative data that's going to be gathered within the context of each one of these different benefits. And you're not going to work obviously on all 30 benefits at one time. The schools take a look at which, and they engage with their stakeholders, and they say these are the ones we're going to focus on. So we did that. We're also working to finalize a district-branded benefits-based accountability graphic, and really begin to think about how we're going to push that out to people. In November, we have the school report that's going to go home, and there's going to be a couple different things in there that are going to explain and begin to introduce this to our families. There's been some, it's really been more of a whisper kind of campaign, I guess, in a sense. We've pushed some things out. And then something that will come from me that will describe that to parents in an email. And then in December, there's this, I found that, we wanted to create an animated video to talk about this rather than just a figurehead standing there and explaining it like this. So if you think of those animation videos that are somebody that's kind of like writing cartoon graphics and stuff and explaining or telling a story, that's what we want to do. I found out from one of my colleagues there's this thing called Upwork, which is a kind of an open source way in which you can go out to the world and ask them and say, this is what we want. We want program designers and people who can do animation and create animations like this to help us tell our story. And so I'm communicating with this person from Wisconsin who does this stuff, who I think will be able to finalize, we'll be able to create a video on or some sort of animation, I think, that's going to be able to be pushed out at the end of November or beginning of December. So we think that that would be another cool way in which to describe and tell the story. And if it works out well, it's somebody that we could use who has that skill set to do those things and to do those well. We are going to create some business rules and a framework of really how our buildings should communicate these kinds of things out, because it needs to be, it's important that there's some symmetry on how we do that there's a style in which we do that, rather than, we have autonomy at the buildings on the benefits, but we don't want the communication style to just be wide open where people can just kind of say different things, because you may have a student at the high school and a student at the intermediate school, and you may be hearing two different things or seeing two different things, and that's not what we want. We want some, we want to really brand that and have that be symmetrical. Just moving into January as well, we're going to dedicate, once our website, a new website gets turned on, we'll be able to graphically show that. We'll have a space that will be set aside for that. Looking into February, again, communicating to our families what the current benefits are and the focus. So as they said, we're going to then signal out what some of the evidence is. Each building will signal out on those benefits that they're working on and provide our families with some evidence on that. And what we would look to do probably around February or March is rather than have like a traditional state of the schools, it would really be kind of a, we're gonna invite our families to come in and have the buildings be able to tell their stories on what it is they're doing. So if you think of like what happened tonight, the other 4 buildings would be part of that. We would have them all in one space. We'd probably have kids, and then we would invite our families to come in and have us kind of talk about what that new accountability system looks like. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you about that. Do you have any questions about anything? Okay. Who's on?
Any questions? Thank you so much. We're at the hearing of the public. Thank you for waiting. It looks like we have Simon Zapata, Mr. Simon Zapata.
I'm a student here, I'm a senior, and I've got all my credits that I needed to graduate. And I'm right now in the process of joining the Army National Guard. And I'm hoping to see maybe if we can work a way to get my diploma early, so that way I can leave for boot camp early. Because my goal right now is to get into Cleveland State University for fall semester next year, as just because they offer a few classes for what I want to go into there, which is information systems, and I eventually want to get a major in management information systems.
When does your boot camp start, Simon? When would it start if you?
I'm hoping to go in February.
Okay.
I'm aware of the policy. Talk to Mr. Spagnola.
Yeah, it's usually you let people know like the year before all that happens, and that's, it's kind of the way that it would go as far as policy goes. But.
Right, yeah, so he turned me down, but.
I think that it's something that we, our job is not to, as a school district, is not to stand in front of, what it is that you're trying to do and to help you, on your way. So I think, did you want to say something, Lynn? I'm sorry.
I can interject, Ray, myself, Simon, a few others, we have met periodically. Part of my conversation with Simon in the past was, what is the plan post high school? The plan is coming into a lot more clarity, as he shared here tonight. The last time we dialogued on it, there really wasn't much of a plan. And I said, no, I want to keep you around and kick your butt a little more, if that's okay. And so the fact that he's come in and articulated the plan is a progress forward. In the past, when I've had kids that wanted to join the military, we've dialogued about a commitment letter, enrollment, saying that he will report to boot camp at this time. And those type of artifacts can help us in our decision making, so that he's executing a plan that has a prepared post-secondary.
So would you say then, and it's great that you follow the process, because this is how it's supposed to go, like the principal is in charge of implementing the board's policy, you come to talk to the board about what the board's policy is. You guys probably don't have that policy memorized off the top of your head, but there is a policy in place. I didn't have it memorized off the top of my head, so I looked it up. And I think one of the things that we can do is dialogue with Mr. Spagnola and take a look at what your plan is. Ultimately, it would come from his recommendation, but the board has the final say on all those different sorts of things, particularly for early graduation. And, I think for something like this, it's not going to be one of those, well, you needed to do it in last year and you didn't do that, and so now we're going to stand in your way of going on to the next level after we just talked about trying to meet student needs and everything else, and that would be double talk, and we're not, about those sorts of things, right? So I think that it's safe to say that we would kind of go back to that and revisit that whole process with you, right?
Good.
You've and I'm not going to ask you all kinds of personal questions here about your credits. I think that's time for, that's at another time we could do that.
He is 100% caught up on credit.
Yeah, and that's the first step. The first step is you're supposed to do that the year before you would go into your senior year, but, life gets in the way. I understand that, right? So we have to talk about that.
Okay.
I know I jumped in, I didn't know, no, I kind of like walked into that, but.
No, we appreciate that.
Okay.
Again, you know, we don't have every policy memorized.
Right,
And
right.
so we would defer to you.
Yeah, we'll work with you guys on that,
Thank you, Sue.
absolutely.
Thank you for your service, and,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, I think that's very cool.
hopefully, this will all be figured out, so.
We can work it out.
And it's nice that you have a plan. It's up to you. I'm still setting a plan myself. Right, what am I gonna do when I grow up?
Right.
Home with this.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking the time to come to the board. Okay, we would like to, acknowledge, donations, and, this is significant. Our athletic boosters has generously donated $50,000, to support the enhancements of the new, track, surface at our, sports stadium. And they're, just an amazing partner, of the school, and, just one of our greatest assets, and we thank them very much for their support. Moving on to our consent agenda now. I'll accept a motion from the board for approval of consent agenda items listed in categories 5 through 8. Are there any, is there any discussion from the board on consent agenda items in categories 5 through 8? Again, just to highlight, we've got the academic calendar, the 5-year forecast. Those would be, the athletic transfer funds. Those would be, things that that aren't normally on our consent agenda.
The results of things, or the winter break, or what was the break?
Your question that Justin
spring
asked?
break.
No,
The
this is.
spring break,
Somebody asked
so,
about spring break.
did we resolve the spring break issue?
They just asked me.
Wednesday? What are you talking about, this year or next year?
Next year.
Next
year, spring break is
Asked me
earlier.
when it was.
Yeah, no, and I did
Yes,
respond.
Jody, yes, spring break is following Polaris.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty then, Mr. Eichenrode, you can call the roll when you're ready.
Mr. Funk,
Yes.
Dr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mrs. Newman,
Yes,
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
and I'm yes.
motion carries. We're on, our agenda 10A, discussing and reviewing the possible dates for the board meetings next year.
Can I interject something that's related to that as well? And I would ask, you don't have to make this decision today, because it'll be interesting to see if you make even that decision today about those dates. The possibility of moving up the board meeting from 7 o'clock to 6:30, and I know it's only a half an hour, and the reason why I would suggest that is for the people who live outside of the district and have to travel, could attend meetings more. And then also for our students who sometimes come here for board meetings too. I think some boards do it at 5 o'clock. I think that's rude to families because it's right in the middle of dinner time and it says that you don't want anybody here, you wouldn't want to be here at 5 o'clock. But at 6:30, I think is potentially reasonable, or no?
So
I don't.
You would prefer,
we
I'm open to whatever it is that you want to do, I am here to
about it
serve.
last year, we did talk about it, and I recall, that the decision was that sometimes it was even hard to get here at 7 o'clock for board members based on their, jobs that they do outside.
You remember we talked about it when Cynthia was on the board, and she struggled getting from Abner.
Yeah, and Jody struggled. But we have a new member coming on and, I would be fine with 6:30.
Or whatever it is the board would like to determine, even if it would be earlier. But that's up to you.
Phil, you're,
It's fine, I'd be fine with it.
we'd have to check with our board member elect and we could, it doesn't matter. Wow, this would be a big change.
That sounds like progress, right? It's only half an hour, but and you're not gonna vote on your calendar right now anyway, are you? It's just discussion. What do you, oh,
Is six?
If you're gonna make it earlier, let's make it earlier.
I'd be fine with six, I love six.
So I was laughing because 7 o'clock meeting, I eat by myself anyway, right? So I'd rather 6.
so do I, I don't even eat most
Well, I
times.
know, yeah.
I go home and I'm like, I wanna eat, but I should.
Selfishly, I prefer it earlier, whatever.
Six. Bob's throwing up the 6 out there too.
Do it.
This is like,
Oh my
you don't know, this is historical. This is historical. We've not changed our meeting time
I know,
ever.
I know. Do you think Mr. Mercer, or Dr. Mercer, be freaking out right now?
he would be okay with that, that could fall in the 2020 rule maybe, you know, some things are just a layup sometimes,
Okay.
right?
All right, so we have general consensus on that. We'll.
Thank you for your consideration,
Wow.
I'll let you talk about your dates and
Yes,
stuff
thank
too,
you
which
so
will be.
much.
So the only, for, the most glaring thing that I saw that I think is not right is our very first meeting of the year on January 11th. I believe that we have to have our organizational meeting based on ORC before January 10th.
That was the 15th, but I could be wrong.
Without Brad here, I believe it's the 10th. Therefore, we need a clarification on that. If it is January 10th, then we would have to have our organizational meeting and our regular meeting on January 4th.
I can't make January 4th.
I'm looking at the code right now.
Within the first 15 days of January,
Is it first 15?
it is.
Oh, then we're golden.
Then we're good, okay.
Oh, I thought it was 10. Why did I think it was the 10? We're golden then. And then we don't have a work session scheduled for January. I'm not sure if we need one.
The board calendar shows January 4th, board session, and then February 1st. The Google calendar that comes over my, what email?
Well, what happens,
We'll pick a date, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it looks like it does appear there's something on there, whether it's valid or not.
No,
It wouldn't be because you have to set it.
Yeah. It'll be January 11th. It'll be January 11th.
we're actually not in school on the 4th.
Yeah, right. That's right, we're not. January 11th. You're correct. Okay,
I'm
But
not,
yes, it is on my calendar.
that first work session, February 1st, I'm in Florida.
okay. So here's what we need to do. All right. I just pointed out that one because I thought it was a thing, but it's not a thing. So it's November, so by the next, within the next, by our next meeting, you would need to put in an email, hey, these are my problem dates. We don't vote on this until January.
Like the organizational.
At the organizational meeting. So we have time to figure it out, we don't have to hash it out, I'm gonna be on vacation, I'm going on vacation too, so, at the time, right? So,
So look at the calendar.
look at the calendar,
Identify
like I
problem
was
dates.
looking, I checked the first 6 months of next year based on the district calendar that's already out, right? Like, the only other thing based on the district calendar, but it wasn't there, is scholarship night for seniors on May 9th. I don't know if it's May 9th or if it's another Thursday in May, but it usually is. But in the past, we kind of have, we have a board meeting, graduation or something.
Right.
We have not made that mistake so far, so, right?
Okay, everybody looking.
Yeah. Definitely, thank you. Okay. December 7th, do we need a work session on December 7th?
I don't think so. I mean, no, because we wouldn't have the facilities meeting anyway until towards the end of December. That would be one that you could do a work session on, but I don't see anything unless you guys can think of anything you wanna identify to work on.
If not, then we could, cancel our December work session and then just meet in December on the 14th. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Dr. Lloyd, would you let Mr. Rockable, you'll put it in?
I'm sending it, email right now.
Okay. All right, so we're canceling our December work session on the 7th. The next time we'll meet, together is December 14th. Before we go into executive session, is there any other general board discussion? From the board at this time? Thank you, I would just like to, publicly thank the board members, that attended the Capitol Conference this past weekend, and all of the leadership that came from the district. We really appreciated, hanging with you in your time. It was fun. We had a good time. It was a really good conference. Unfortunately, the end was, tragic. With the, tragedy with Tusky Valley High School, but, otherwise there was a lot of good content and good speakers and such. So thank you so much. Alrighty, we appreciate everyone coming. I'll accept a motion from the board to go into executive session.